we're a unicorn in the beauty industry. Even though we contribute the highest dollar amount, billions of dollars to the beauty industry with just hair extensions alone.
Welcome to the Brand Brief podcast, where we discuss the latest trends on the business side of fashion, beauty, and entertainment, and the impact of technology on driving brand growth. This podcast is powered by Brand Method Media Group, and I'm your host, Kelly Kelly. Today's guest is Tiffini Gatlin, founder and CEO of Latched and Hooked Beauty, a line of premium synthetic hair products without all the gross toxins. Welcome to the show, Tiffini.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. So really, and this is a new podcast, but the purpose of this is to really go behind the scenes of a brand and what it takes specifically in the age of technology and innovation. So I want to kind of take it back a little bit and talk about the brand evolution. So let's start with how you started Latched and Hooked.
So I started Latched and Hooked after my oldest daughter, actually I have two daughters. My oldest daughter suffered from an allergic reaction in her scalp from wearing braids for the first time. And it's not something that I ever experienced before. I had always worn braids. I actually did braids when I was a teenager. I just hadn't experienced any of my clients or myself who actually experienced scalp irritation. And so as a mom, of course, when something happens to your kid, you just kind of spring into action to find out like what's going on. So I was scouring the internet, just kind of looking at forums and seeing what other women were talking about. And indeed, other women were suffering from the same thing that she was suffering from. And of course, as Black women, we have our remedies. You know, we tell other Black women, hey, try this. I did this. It worked for me. Try this. And so there has been this, this thing for, about 5 decades, really, where Black women have just dealt with the pain that getting your hair done with synthetic hair extensions came with. And I just felt like, why should we pay all this money to get our hair done, to buy these products, but then experience discomfort? And no one is talking about it in an outwardly way. No one's talking about it. There's really no real solutions to the problem. We're doing these home remedies that we think are working. We're coming up with our own conclusions as to why this may be happening. And we're spreading this information around. And I didn't know if it was true or not, but I really felt compelled to want to dig deeper into the situation. I had never, ever thought about becoming an entrepreneur in the beauty space. It was never my intention to start a hair brand at all. And this is actually my second hair brand. So this for Latched and Hooked with this story, it just came out of wanting to help my daughter. But in turn, after me helping my daughter, I was actually able to help other women and solve the problem for them of being able to wear synthetic hair extensions without experiencing scalp irritation or additional hair loss.
And I think to be quite honest, it was through you that I learned about that because, I'm from the era where we're now familiar and it's pretty solid that perms were bad, right? But then when you think about braids, there's almost this idea of, well, my scalp is free. Like it's there, I'm not putting anything on my scalp necessarily. So what could be the harm? And it was through your brand that I realized there is harm in that. Also, the other thing that I don't think a lot of women considered is that sometimes even when you get a sew-in, they're adding synthetic hair to the braid down, and that is laying on your scalp. It's like, these were things I never considered prior to following the evolution of your brand. And I think probably a lot of other women maybe didn't consider these things either.
Yeah. I want to say that if I didn't do anything else in this journey of entrepreneurship and creating this brand and others, is that I opened up this conversation that nobody was having. you know.
Yeah.
I made Black women at least become more aware about the options that they had. Because I'm always told, like, I don't think you get enough credit, and I probably don't, you know, because it's not a space that people generally think about Black women innovating in. There's still a struggle of whether or not it's a real business, quote unquote. We still aren't, even though we are a part of the beauty industry, it's kind of like we're a unicorn in the beauty industry. Even though we contribute the highest dollar amount, billions of dollars to the beauty industry with just hair extensions alone, we still are not given the shine I believe we deserve, for it. So again, I think if I haven't done anything else in this space, I have again opened up the conversation. I continue to open up different types of dialogue around all different types of conversation, texture, why women wear hair pieces, hair loss, toxic chemicals used to formulate this particular product, debunking myths left and right about the industry, about the products. And so, yeah, I'm just happy that a lot more women are more informed than they were 7 years ago when I came on the scene.
1,000%. So I would love to get an idea of, I mean, you're at the helm of, I'm assuming I can say a multi-million dollar company.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. So we'll scratch that.
Let me, yeah. So, and a lot of people assume that, which I never really considered people really assuming that because I don't think I've ever talked about how much money I've made in my
Okay.
business before or whatever, but I'm not comfortable with it. I just, I think people just assume or what have you. So I have had a multi-million dollar brand before in synthetic hair. That is has been sold. And with Latched and Hooked, we have made over $1 million in the course of our company's existence. We're not a multi-million dollar company, but we are $1 million company. We have made over $1 million in revenue in the 7 years that we've been in existence. But I myself have not made $1 million. I myself am not a millionaire. Okay, I want to clear that up because I think people get confused when people say like, oh, your company is $1 million. People assume that the owner, the person who created the business,
Right.
is a millionaire, and that is for me is not accurate. I have not made $1 million, but I have been able to have make a great life and living from what I'm doing. And there's just so much more room to grow. But
And I'll
this
say this.
this business,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say we could edit that part out, but I do think if you're comfortable, I think leaving it in is important because in the age of 7, 8 figure months, according to Instagram, it can be it can make you jaded. And you think, okay, everybody's making all this money. And even if the business is making that kind of money, there's a lot of other costs that far exceed what you're even taking home as a salary. Let's say you can get to the point where you take home a salary.
Yeah.
Even if the business is making millions, your salary could be in addition to your team, that's a smaller percentage of what the revenue ideally of what the
Yeah.
revenue is. So I think it's,
Yeah. Yeah, I think
eye-opening.
100% you should leave it in there because I think it's important for people to get a at least for me, get a realistic idea of, I've been in business for 7 years. Again, I said this is my second beauty company. And even with my first beauty company, we were a multi-million dollar company because we started the company at the right time in the right place. And it was a lot of luck in there. I'm going to say that. Very little competition, great timing, great product. So that's why that business was able to generate multi-million dollars in 2 years,
Right.
which is very hard to, it's difficult to do for a brand new brand that nobody's ever heard of before. But again, even with Latched and Hooked, it's 7 years. We've made a little over $1 million or generated a little bit over $1 million, but that's 7 years.
Right.
So that lets you know that every year we were averaging around what, 300 and something $1,000 every year. But for me, that was success. That's success
Right.
for
Yeah.
me. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't working in corporate America making that type of money. And I was making it in an industry that I had no experience in really. So for me, it was successful. I don't know what other entrepreneurs think success is. And I think that somewhere along the way, we have attached this number, this $1 million number to success. I don't know how we got there and I don't know who created that. But I think it's successful if you continue to be in business year over year. You have a successful business if you still have customers who are buying from you. You know what I mean? That is success. And it's
Listen,
not anything to see that.
2022, and this is just full transparency, 2022 was the first year that my business cracked six figures. And at first I felt like so behind. And I was like, people are now making six figures a month. Like I'm behind. I'm like, and then I had to stop myself and number one, reflect on that year. 2022, I had a baby. The baby was home the whole year. And so by the end of the year, once I kind of got out of my own head, I was like, okay, but you did this at home with a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there wasn't a baby, it is
Right.
still progress. You
Right.
still busted your butt. You still never compromised your integrity.
Yeah.
You still gave everything you could to your clients and your business and your family also at the same time with a new life. Like, I think it is important. And I do think that goals are great. We should strive for all of that. But I think social has people so wrapped up in hitting this number and at the expense of not feeling successful if you don't. I think that's probably the most dangerous part is that you end the year and you're like, oh man, I didn't hit $1 million. It's like,
Right.
okay, but you're still in the fight every day, right?
And there were many other things that person likely did that warrants an applause and warrants the fact that these are also accomplishments. Like it doesn't diminish anything else that you've done, you know. So I think we just have to be careful as entrepreneurs, putting ourselves in this box of if I don't do this, that I'm not successful.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the important part. Goals are great. Striving, setting, BHAGs and all that type of stuff, I think is very important. But keeping it in perspective when you sit down to do your year-end review or whatever it is you do, where you start looking at numbers and learning from it as opposed to dwelling on all that went wrong. Mm-hmm. So I would love to see more of that as we get now. People are making 8 figures a month. So I don't know if we're going in the right direction, but I would like to keep the conversation open to those who are every day getting up and giving their all to something and making something out of nothing.
Yeah, and
like,
I think it's also equally important that, I have friends who have businesses who are 8-figure businesses, but they are also just as stressed and just, are still living a life of still hustle. You know what I mean? And which is why I think it's important that these type of business owners also keep it real and share what goes into that type of success. And even if you do have an 8-figure business, what are still some of the challenges that you face?
Still have some.
Yeah, you still, if you're making 8 figures, you got a team, you've got overhead, you got some bills that you're paying. And 8 figures is not going into your pocket. And I think that's the part people are just not understanding. Like, no matter what figure business that you have, that doesn't mean that money is going directly into our pocket.
Right.
We have bills that we have to pay.
Yeah.
And our expenses may be high.
So I want to talk about in the age of, AR and AI, what type of technological trends are disrupting your industry? And I asked this question because I recently sat in on the Business of Fashion. They had their big annual conference, and a lot of people are, in the fashion and beauty and entertainment space are opening up on what that looks like for them. Because I think people assume when you're talking about creative or arts or brands or beauty or things like that, oh, well, I can, have mid-journey design packaging, but there's so much, or I can have, ChatGPT create social captions or whatever.
Mhm.
But I really want to dissect what role is this playing in your business and in your industry?
Yeah, so actually over the summer, I was on a panel at one of the beauty shows that they have, Cosmoprof beauty shows. And I was on a beauty panel and we talked about how AI is actually potentially affecting or enhancing our industry. And like one of the things we were talking about is, I I was on the Scout bandwagon 7 years ago because obviously this happened with my daughter and her Scout. And so I've been talking about Scout for 7 years. So I think I was like 7 years ahead of time where I was talking about products that were better for your scalp when everybody else was just talking about shampoos and conditioners and hot tools. And so right now in the beauty industry, Scout, you'll see a lot of beauty companies talking about Scout and developing and creating products for Scout. And so one of the things that I'm seeing is different types of artificial intelligence that is basically going underneath and being able to look at the scalp and seeing how the hair
Oh,
follicles are
wow.
actually developing in a customer. And so that you can actually give a client a complete hair analysis and tell them down to based off of what their follicles look like, what type of product may be best for them. So basically matching that customer with the right type of product, because
Mm.
we know for consumers, we try so many different products to try to see what's good for our hair, like what product works best for our hair. And you hear low porosity and high porosity. And a lot of customers are like, I don't know what kind of porosity my hair has. And they're telling you to do all these different types of tests. Well, now you're seeing more beauty companies investing in, AI and AR and really trying to figure out how can we be kind of like that liaison between the product and whatever ailments the customer may be dealing with, whether it's hair loss, whether it's alopecia and breakage, hair breakage, and they're able to say like, okay, if you're dealing with these issues, these are the types of products that you need that are best used for your type of hair. So that's a big thing that's going on. Some of the other things we were talking about is being able to for customers who want to like change their hair color or maybe be scared to try a different color. Kind of that thing where how you get in front of the computer and it kind of does like the little face scan. Well, it does the face scan and it can kind of tell you which color hair would be best for your
Wow.
complexion. So therefore, you can see yourself virtually in that color before committing to that color. And then it will kind of tell you like, hey, this is what you need to, this is where you need to buy the color you need to buy, for your hair. Products, I've also seen machinery that is creating the different textures. So, I'm a faux hair designer. So I design all of our hair pieces. And so there are machines involved in actually creating the textures that I sell. And so there are machines that are available that can really mimic the texture of Black hair. So that's
Wow.
why when you see so many different types of textures in hair extensions, whether it's, I'm specifically synthetic hair, but when you see these different types of hair extensions and they have different patterns, there's actually machines that are creating those different types of patterns. And the depth of the texture that you see specifically in synthetic hair is all generated by machinery. It's not done
Wow.
by hand. So that's really interesting that we can kind of play with and develop texture by, using machines to do that. So yeah, those are just like some of the things that we're kind of seeing, but really trying to figure out, we're constantly trying to figure out what what types of AI is available to help make the customer journey a little bit more easier when it comes to not having to figure out what to do with their hair
Right.
and making it easier for the customer. So it's actually kind of exciting. I know a lot of people are kind of like freaked out about what AI is doing in different spaces. I see it as really, if used the right way, I think it can really help enhance industry, and again, just continue to make the process easier for consumers when they're trying to figure out solutions to some of their, worst hair problems.
Now, the next question to that is, and I'm of the same mindset. I think it's all exciting. That's just me. Especially, in working in marketing, that was probably one of the main industries in the spotlight at the top of the year where they're like, y'all don't have a job no more. We can put everything through Chat GPT. Bop, bop, bop. We were on the chopping block for some, but it's exciting to me because this leads to my next question. As we get more, as AI and AR becomes more integrated into our daily lives, because it's been a topic of conversation for years, we have to some degree used AI in other forms. It just kind of hit a spotlight earlier this year. As this becomes more integrated into our daily life, how do you balance maintaining some sort of human connection with your audience and your customer base while still leveraging the tech?
Well, I think for beauty specifically, the having that human interaction is always going to be important, specifically for Black beauty and hair, because at the end of the day, I think we are so close to the problems that our customers face that it's kind of like you still need human input. Like you still need my input to be able to even say like, so for instance, if you when synthetic hair first hit the market, it wasn't really that believable. It was very plasticky. It looks fake. And now, forward, I would say this is probably like 10, 15 years later, you are seeing the hair look more and more realistic. And it can rival human hair any day. Like the human hair and the synthetic hair are almost looking the same. And a lot of people are like, well, you know what? I'll just buy the synthetic hair because it's only going to be a short amount of time that I'm going to wear this anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
And a lot of that is because of the input that humans, Black women are saying like, no, we need this to look more like this. We need it to be more textured. So I think there still needs to be guidance from humans to be able to guide the process. But I think that it's taken a lot of the pressure off of us and also opening up the idea, or it's just giving us more space to be more creative because it's helping us to think about things that maybe we didn't think about. But also when you have the human interaction, it's kind of merging human interaction with this virtual creative space that maybe you just didn't think about. And it's like kind of merging those two together. And I think when you have the human interaction and kind of like this additional creative space and you put that together, I think it can create more magic. And I think that's what people don't necessarily think about. I think the two need to go in tandem. Like it's not really one replacing it all. It's just that there's this virtual piece that has the ability to kind of think beyond what we're kind of, I don't even want to say capable of thinking, but it just has the ability to just be even more expressive, even wilder, and just kind of giving us the space of, oh, wow, I didn't think about that. And then taking that and expanding it even more.
Yep. I think that's the way that I kind of saw it. It was like a spark.
Yeah.
You have so many things, especially as a business owner, regardless of what industry you're in, there's so many things that you're thinking about at one time. When it comes to sitting in front of a blank screen, whether you're planning, strategy, whatever, AI can help spark and say, here are 10 things you didn't consider, but it's up to you to run with that and apply it
and develop it even more.
Develop it, right? Instead of sitting there blank for an hour, like, oh, I got to come up with a marketing plan. I got to come up with an operations plan. It's like, you put something in there and it spits it out and you're like, you know what?
Right.
That's right. Do that. Okay.
And the human interaction piece comes in, and this is the part I think people are missing, is even like with a chat GPT or whatever it is that what you're missing is that you can read it and say, now this don't really apply, but I can see where you're going with this, and you could put in what's true. and continue to
Exactly.
develop that out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not just a spit out and you turn it in how it was given. It's a spit out. Let me see how I can further develop this idea.
That's probably the best way to put it. It's like, that's not really connecting, but I see where you're going.
I
And
see
I'm
where
ready to
you're
pick
going.
this up now and move it to the next stage.
Exactly. I can move it to the next day. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what people are missing with it.
So before we close out, Tiff, I want to talk about, what's on the horizon for Latched and Hooked.
Mhm.
What do you guys have coming up?
So, it has been a rough year, I think, for everybody in business. I've
Mhm.
talked to a lot of my colleagues in different industries, and everybody's doing like these temperature checks. Like, how are you doing? How are you doing? And, for me, it's always about creativity. And so what I've begun to do with Lash and Hooked is move into a space of creating for other entrepreneurs. And so what that looks like is I'm developing and creating hair extension products for other beauty entrepreneurs who want to be
Oh,
in the space of
wow.
consumer packaged goods, but
Yeah.
don't necessarily know how to develop CPG products. And
Right.
so because I've been doing this for more than 8 years, I'm able to kind of pass on my expertise and really help other entrepreneurs who want to be in the beauty space and want to sell a beauty product, help them with their packaging, help them with their designing, really move them through to distribution.
I love
And so
that.
I've already begun that process and I really love it. That is really a space that I really love. And so that's the next wave for us is really getting more clients on and pushing out more products into the beauty space where other entrepreneurs can develop their ideas that they have for hair and beauty products. And
That's incredible.
yeah, so I've got one in the works that should be pushing out by I would say about summer of 2024. I'm really excited about it. My client's been working really hard, and I've just been excited to be able to design that product for her. So yeah, that would be the next wave of
I think
design
what's
that
also so cool about that is like they're learning from someone who like literally has been there, done that.
right.
And you've lived such a unique experience, especially being in this space. And it's like you're tapping into that knowledge. Also, you're getting a deliverable, but you're tapping into boots on the ground knowledge. Not I was born into it,
Right.
I came up in the family. But nope, I built this whole thing and like I have very key knowledge, that
Very.
you can probably help with. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. And be able to, I know the pitfalls that I've had and I know all the mistakes that I've made. And now I can really help entrepreneurs to kind of curb these mistakes. They'll make others, but I'm
Right.
at least helping them curb these. And then all of the partners along the way that I've worked with, I'm able to pass that on to my clients and say, like, hey, I have great graphic designers. I have great, procurement vendors. I have great project managers. I have great SEO attorneys. Like I have like all of these people that I have partnered with along the way that now I can pass off to other beauty professionals who want to create in the CPG space. So that's where I'm going. The next phase for me, and then just continue. I don't from my own CPG space. I'm still here. I'm still here. We're still creating. And I want to continue to be innovative in this space and thinking about new products and things like that. I don't know how much longer I'll be in that space, the CPG space, honestly, because I know my customers need me, which is why I'm still honestly here. I know they still need me. I know they still need my products, and I want to be a source for because honestly, my business just kind of runs itself.
That's
I don't
amazing.
have to do much. We've just, over the last 7 years, we really just created a system that just works and really runs itself. I think the biggest thing for me is just continuing to innovate in this space. At one point, I really wanted to be in retail, and I kind of still do after having my QVC experience. It's difficult. You just don't know until you're there. You hear people say it, and you're like, I can do it. I'll be able
Yeah.
to get on there and sell off the shelves or whatever. It is so difficult. And it's one thing to get on the shelves, and we're not on a brick and mortar shelf, but we're on a QVC shelf. And it's like you just to still, I mean, thank God I'm still, every month I'm getting a check from QVC. So that means that the products are selling, but it's still very difficult. You have to continue to figure out ways to get people over there to shop your products. And I don't know, it's just one of those things you just have to figure out like, okay, is it worth it? Like what is
Right.
the point? What is the reason why you really want to be on the shelf? Is it just to say like, oh, I'm on
I'm
Target
on the
shelves,
shelf.
or
Yeah.
I'm on this shelf, because it takes a lot of work to get there and a lot of work to stay there. And it takes a lot of money, a lot of
Yeah.
money to do it. So I don't know. It's a lot of things to consider. I just feel like I haven't even scratched the surface of being in this industry yet. But I'm always trying to push myself to figure out like, okay, what could I create next? Like what would be something of value that I can create next for consumers? And so to do that though requires me to be in a creative space. Sometimes it's hard to be in that creative space. Like I might not be motivated, you know, I might not be inspired at the moment to create something. I haven't created anything new all year because I really
Okay.
haven't been inspired to do so. I just created some new products that will likely launch next year sometime. But it took a while for me to get into that creative mode to do it. So,
I'm the same way. In my creative, it takes me to be in a certain space to come up with creative in terms of like campaigns or things like that. I have to put myself in a certain space that may be clearing all the other admin or operating tasks I have to do for a day and just focusing on the creative process. I
mm,
can't toggle back and forth a lot if
right.
I'm trying to really tap into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So that's where I'm
Yeah.
at.
Well, that wraps today's show. Thank you to our incredible guest, Tiffini Gatlin, founder and CEO of Latched and Hooked Beauty. We'll have contact information for Latched and Hooked Beauty in the show notes for anyone interested in supporting the brand and shopping for products. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and review. And thank you. Until next time.